also, so please feel free to continue to use the restrooms and walk around and get more food, etc. So we're pleased to have Davan here today with our food again today, which is as good, if not better than yesterday. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, delicious.
Davan is going to share with you his story about his idea and how he took it to market and his success story. So, Davan, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, how are you? Good. So this is my entrepreneurs then for coming up. How many of you guys are interested in culinary? Anybody interested in culinary? Awesome. Where are you from? What school? Lumen Christi too. So you're not fitting with the group over here. You're not clicking in, huh? No, I'm just kidding. It's a good thing. Branch out, branch out. I am a graduate of Lumen Christi, as Ron said. It's a lot of education's coming to fall from different schools, sources, Pennsylvania here, and so on and so forth. But I guess really nothing's ever really prepared me for culinary arts and business like just jumping in with your feet first kind of deal. One of the things that Connie, and I don't know if you know Connie from yesterday from Junior Achievement, had asked me is she goes, I want you to talk kind of about tenacity at this point, kind of how things have gone for you. As I was telling the Lumen students over here, I was the first Career Center student to go to the Career Center from Lumen Christi, which was a complete struggle. My mother had to argue to get me to where I want to go, which was the Career Center, and to at least give me that stepping stone so I could see if I even like doing something like this. So it kind of started off that way, but the bullheadedness of both my mother and I, we finally got in the doors, and that was kind of a nice little stepping stone for me. And as I have gotten older, I have been more representative of the Career Center and been able to go back and see my mentor who is there now still, Chef Helmbrock and stuff like that. So, but culinary is culinary and business is business. So if you're picking an avenue for an entrepreneurship, business is going to be here. Like Ron said, you're going to need to market your idea, you're going to need to take it to town, you're going to need to find out how it's going to come to fruition, how are you going to make money, how are you going to live, taxes, government, how things all come into play are all for you to learn at that point. And my biggest suggestion to you is to learn from others' mistakes. And as I was young and ready and I wanted to open my own business right after high school, which I did, I just jumped in feet first, and everything people would tell me, I'm like, whatever, I'll just do my thing, we got a good product, we're doing great. None of that prepared me for understanding that I can fall on my face very quickly without having guidance from others, especially my elder others that would tell me things like, Davan, you got to do this, Davan, you got to do this, Davan, you got to do this. And so finally I'm like, gosh, it's just like being a kid again. Your parents are always trying to tell you something, you don't listen, but guess who knows more than you do? So kind of talking about getting up in the world with the entrepreneurships is to learn from others' mistakes up front, take your idea that you have and place it on that pedestal and run with it and be ready to go and see if it's going to work and this, that, and the other, but yet listening to others around you to understand how this is all going to come to play. So, how many people are from Jackson High? Michigan Center? Lumen, you got the 4 or 5 of you? 4? Who else? Napoleon here? Anybody else? Western. That's right, we're a Western person. So, I guess from kind of like I said, the aspects of being a chef and being in business are 2 different aspects. And then, as you're going to grow and mature, you'll have families, family life. So you'll have to balance all of these things together, the career, the business, and family. And so if you are gung-ho about doing this, you may surpass or may kind of not realize that you're lacking in other areas while trying to be really gung-ho about the business or being really gung-ho about this product that you're going to have. So we got to have a tipping scale, a balance scale. And so right now, I have 2 children at home. They both go to school. I got to come home, got to take care of them, just like I do an 80-hour work week every week at work, and then making sure my 75 employees all seem to have money coming in, and so there's a huge balance there for us. So right now, like my assistant Taryn, I'm grateful to have wonderful employees. And then there's been times where we have bad employees. So these are going to be all balance scales for when you run your own business, or if you want to go out on your own, you got to figure these things out. So, do you have a question? No? Come on, Lester, bring it up. Does anybody have any certain questions that they feel like they need to ask, like right up front, about just kind of being tenacious at this point?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, restaurants probably fail at a higher rate than any other business that I know of. Why do you think that is?
You know, we've had a failure. We failed in Albion. We started in 05 out there, and then we had the crash of 08, which happened around this area, which was nasty.
Yeah.
It's like a big depression. And so that business is just basically flattened on its face. Did I feel that we had a good product? Sure.
Were you doing the same kind of thing, catering now?
No, we had a restaurant, full-blown
You
restaurant.
had brick and mortar?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we had a full-blown restaurant and catering, and the only thing that did sustain it was the catering after a while. And that's because we can branch out. You know, we weren't in just one location at that point. But with the failure rate on that, I think there's lots of multiple factors. I think some of the people I've seen get into the restaurant business don't understand it very well. Some people don't understand business in general, that everybody gets a piece of the pie when you start walking in the door. Or your location could be another one. Or it just ends up having you have really untrainable people at that point in time. You're not looking for the right gifted people, things like that, and they can sink your business just as fast as yourself. You know, and some of this stuff is very tiring after a while. And again, it's what I talk about with tenacity is you're going to have days, if you're really a business owner, you're going to have days where you're so frustrated that you're going to crawl into a corner and cry. I do this a lot. But you're going to crawl into a corner. You're going to get frustrated. There's a lot that comes at you, and it comes at you in all different directions. But you have to take that product, that spirit that you remembered having in the beginning, and you got to keep it focused on keeping going. And a lot of my focus right now for my business is keeping my employees extremely busy, so I have to market us every single day. We're the second largest wedding caterer in Jackson, Michigan in the southeast corner. We're doing 200 weddings in every 7 months. So I got to keep these guys going. And they're my spirit, and that's what I want to do. So my gift to them to keep their paycheck is for me to work extremely hard to make sure they have one. And they work extremely hard for me so that they can have one. So I mean, failure rate, does it happen? Sure. I think there's a multitude of things to answer the question. Honestly, there's a lot of things. How do I feel that Albion failed for us? I feel a multitude had happened. I feel I jumped in a lot of things. I did a lot of wrong things. I mean, I was the head chief in charge, and to make really a lot of mistakes, I made a lot of mistakes. And I had people under me that made a lot of mistakes, and I had a government entity that made a lot of mistakes, and so we ended up having too many mistakes, and then you fail. But that's okay. As everybody knows the Michael Jordan story, they ended up cutting him from the team in North Carolina, and he ends up becoming one of the best basketball players on record. It's the same fact. If you want to stick with it and you want to keep doing it, you just got to keep doing it. And if you are the head CEO, the chief, the man, the manager, the owner, whatever that case may be, you are that person. You are that man. You are that woman. You are the only one that will keep that business going. So you have to continue to push yourself forward every day. It's like getting out of bed. You guys are excited. I've heard nothing but great things about this group right now. You're excited to come here. You wanted to come here. It's that same drive to come to this class today and throughout this week as it will be the rest of your life if you're an owner of a business. You will have to have that excitement, that drive to keep it going. And so, like I said, are there bad days where you don't want to show the good stuff? Absolutely. But are there good days where I've met some really cool people? I've gotten to see different things that I've never thought I would see in my entire lifetime and in a short amount of time. Because we've only been doing this for myself. I opened my business back in '98. so now it's 2014, and I feel like I've gotten to see some things that I probably never would have if I hadn't jumped in. And so, and if anybody knows me, they know I jump in head first. I don't even take the diving board. I just run and I jump. And so I've gotten a little bit slower as I have figured out the mature rate of it is to find out what I'm doing first before I do it. To do the homework in the location I'm in before I do it. Just not sign contracts that I shouldn't be signing before I do it. Okay? And some of those things, if you can ever imagine in your life, could tank you real quickly. So if you slow yourself down and understand what you want to do, then you can go forward. And I think you can full force it like a bull with tenacity if you know what's going on. Okay? So, don't have the most interesting story in the whole wide world, but I'm always here for people that want to learn from me and understand that I've made a lot of mistakes and that we can go forward. And in fact, I have a lot of restaurateurs that come to me quite often. So, yes, sir.
I want to take a look at the other side of tenacity. So what does it cost to open a restaurant? And what are the typical hours worked?
Right now, when I originally opened Albion, it cost me about $90,000 to open it. It's the lowest I've ever seen me get into something. I had been in partnership with my cousins before. There's a large story behind a lot of it. It cost me about $90,000, but to date, because it has fallen and failed, it has cost me $500,000.
You want to tell them how much it sold for?
Yeah. So we went to auction to sell the building in Albion, and it went for $34,000 after putting countless thousands into it.
And hours.
And hours. I worked I literally, I remember sleeping there and opening and closing, sleeping, opening, closing, sleeping, opening, and closing every single day for about 6 months. So at least. And we were there for about 5 years. So we made it past the hurdle of the craziness, and I was squeezing lemons just to make $1. And it was tough. The economy dropped like you wouldn't believe. We have I don't know if you guys are familiar with Albion, how it's laid out, but there's Marshall next to it, and Battle Creek and Kalamazoo, and we've got Jackson kind of over here, the surrounding little communities like Concord and Springport and stuff like that. Marshall was our biggest client when I first came here. They had 800 jobs from State Farm, which was this giant place, and it was executive money, and it was spent out, and so these guys would come over and they'd spend just countless money. They didn't care. But when the economy dropped in 2008, the issue was they all moved out. And so our business just went right with it. And if you've ever seen a factory like a Ford factory in a town and it all of a sudden disappears, these little restaurants and all that stuff disappear right with it because there's no one left to buy from. So, yes?
How did you deal with the stress personally?
I usually punch a lot of walls. You know, I deal with it differently. I've dealt with every situation differently, and we get hammered with lots of different things. I've gotten nailed by regulatory commissions, OSHA, IRS.
Well, what did OSHA have to do with you?
OSHA came in at one point in time. Somebody tripped and fell in the restaurant, and they were there within about 2 weeks, and wanted to come in to see.
Tiles are not safe.
Yeah, and it wasn't even tiles. I think it was a lip on a piece of wood at that point that had to be done. And when they came in,
Fine for having that.
we were fined $25,000 for that incident.
This is why OSHA people are.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't think that. Here's what I think. I think they have a job to do, and we had a job to do, and we don't want anybody to get hurt either. The issue for my fight was we had this thing in an old train depot. It's eclectic. It was beautiful. It had wood floors. You didn't want to mess with anything. I'm a very big into vintage things, so I don't go back and sand and paint something. I leave it the way it is. But they're right. There's a floorboard that's up. This lady tripped. Not good. So they came. Instead of just dealing with the floorboard, we dealt with bathrooms, handicap stalls, accessibility, ADA. All that stuff got hit all at once. And so by that time, things get thrown at you that you weren't prepared for, and You have money going out, you have contractors coming in, take care of things, you got this, that, and the other, and it's one more thing to add to the pie.
So kind of like the thing with McDonald's, about the lady spilled the coffee on someone got like third-degree burns.
Well, the thing with McDonald's, and I've studied that system, that particular case quite a bit, it actually comes up quite a bit at the Career Center. The issue wasn't her just getting scalded, she was scalded. It was horrible. Now, did she know that there was hot water? Sure, she knew that. The failure in the point that was made, the failure was the cup. The cup collapsed in her hand. So that was the failure point and why a lawsuit was given. It wasn't that she got scalded, gee, it was hot coffee, are you dumb, why would you put it in your lap? No, she took it over to her lap and the cup was crushed at that point. And if you've ever had a styrofoam cup,
It melted.
it melts, it deteriorates, it goes fast. So her case in point was she wanted her medical bills because she had been scalded, which is an insurance situation.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is in the report, she didn't want anybody to ever have this happen to them again, and therefore you have a lawsuit. You move forward on where things are at. And so McDonald's,
Career Center, though.
what's that?
Are you in the culinary?
I'm one of the acquisition team members for the culinary there.
Awesome.
Yeah, yep,
I had no idea.
yep.
I think I've seen you around before.
You should see there's a plaque in there somewhere. I'm just kidding, it was ridiculous. But anyway, so I mean, that was one of the reasons why McDonald's got sued at that point. But as a business owner for yourself, these stipulations will come up more often than you think. Things that you didn't think of will hammer you. It's just like when you go to buy a house in the world, the water heater breaks, the concrete's cracking, the roof needs repair. Any of this stuff that you didn't think about right when you bought this house will probably happen either soon or down the road.
I just have to say it, you said water heater. When I bought my first and only home, I was so excited, I was gonna stop by after work to drop some stuff off. I go down to the basement, I hear this drip, 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 2 inches of water out of the basement. The afternoon that I became a homeowner, the water heater broke and flooded the basement.
Right, so pretty good case in point.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with business. In our side of it, we've even had issues where I've hired an accountant firm, something got messed up there, and all of a sudden, you got a knock on the door from the IRS, and they'd like to see everything. And so then you're dealing with lawyers, and more accountants, and more systems, and more things that weren't in place that you didn't think were going to come at you, just because of one transposed number at that point in time. So it gets fixed up, but what did the fix cost? It costs you thousands, because a lawyer isn't cheap, and an accountant is definitely not cheap. Those two love to make a lot of money, and if you really want to go into some more problems, get your teeth fixed at the same time, right? So, but that's kind of where that's at.
While you're on money, you said it took $90,000 to start your first restaurant in Albion, which is relatively inexpensive, but for most of us, $90,000 is a lot of money. How did you find that initial capital or debt?
The initial capital was sought by different investors and myself. I ended up putting my own money into it as well. I inherited some money from my grandmother when she passed away.
You had a group of other people, and how
I
did
had a
you
group
find
of
them?
13 investors when we first started. I built a full company with an incorporation. It had 13 investors. Each one paid for shares of stock. Those stocks were then transferred into the loan money that we used to buy the restaurant's
How
equipment.
did you put the 13 together? Were they friends? How did you get together?
One of them was a partner in an ex deal that I already had going on. And then he had friends along the side, and then I went back to family members that I knew had money at that point in time. And then we all had a giant meeting just like this today. I spieled it out. I had a dry erase board. I showed them what we were going to do, the menus, all of it. It was all given up.
Corey just said you gave an elevator pitch is what we spent the morning on. You basically gave a pitch to your investor group?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Want to give it to us?
No, I don't want to do it. I found as I've done this, restaurant, no more. If I really want to work for nothing, run a restaurant, it's a lot of work. And it's a long-term payoff instead of a short-term payoff for me. So I found that catering has been an absolute massive payoff for me, not only in my life, my career, and how things are going now, But to be able to build something as big as we've gotten in the last 2 years, we're up like 4,000% each year.
Wow.
So, and then we're in one of the largest buildings downtown, which we have a lot of room to grow at this point, so.
You mentioned about hiring people, and with growth like that, the number one reason the businesses fail is they grow too fast.
Yep,
They don't get the right people.
If we
How
just-
in the world do you find the right people?
It's really funny that you just mentioned this, because we just had this meeting. I have coordinator staff that come out to play. My weddings are devised of different groups of people. One is a coordinator who runs the show. They're kind of like the maitre d', the conductor, and they know pretty much every aspect of the business. And then I have like cleanups crew, I have service crews, I have transporters, I have drivers, I have all that at this point in time. And we kind of subsection these people. And we all just sat down and talked about how big we've gotten in the last, and how we're gonna continue to grow, and how many more people we need this week, and things like that. And one of the biggest things we talked about was slowing down, because we're getting massive at this point. We're so massive in catering at this point that I've actually just said we need to stop taking jobs on at this point. And we do have a wonderful referral service that comes through us to other caterers that we're in really good cahoots with all the time, because if we've got their back, they have our back as well. So I have a mentor in this business as well that we send a lot out to.
When you said a referral service, you mean you refer employees to each
No,
other?
we have done that. The referral that we're talking about would be customers that come and we turn the jobs down at this point, we refer them out to the other caterers.
So how do you find people that you can trust to handle this volume of work?
We have worked extremely hard to find these people. Like, a lot of them have a restaurant culinary background. Some of them have been with me since day one. I have 2 people right now that have been with me since the day I started my career in '98. And they have been just absolutely wonderful to work with, and they're kind of getting into their retirement phase already at this point. And so they have really been able to go out and soul search some of the people that they already know that have been in the restaurant business for a long time. And then we bring them aboard and we do some training. A lot of this is just, they walk in, they're not serving tables anymore. When they walk in and they're starting to understand how to prep things, wash things, making sure things are set up, making sure that things are loaded properly, tied down when we go in a van, or something small like that. All the little bits and pieces all have to be trained to each individual person. And most people want to build themselves to the coordinator position because it's a higher end up position for us, and it gets you more hours and things like that. So if they want to learn it and we want to teach it and they're ready to do it, then you can learn a lot from us at that point.
Do you find during this training process that you lose a lot of people because you just realize they're not a good fit for your business?
We've lost, this last couple of years, we've only lost, I would say, out of as many as we've had, we've only lost about 6 people. And that's due to maybe lack of hours for them, maybe relocation, schooling, things like that. And I think that's a pretty good number for us. When I used to have a huge turnover rate in Albion, when we first started, we had 105 people working for us. So we were the second largest provider besides the college for employment over there. That's pretty big. We were even bigger than Guardian at that point. So we were employing more of these people more, and they would just turn over, and it was really tough to keep people over there. And I think that has to do with a lot of levels, economy issues, housing, situations like that. But it's tough. Now this is so much more lax and more comfortable when people come in. They want to work with us because it's easy, and it's not a hard day. I think there's only a couple hours of your day if we go to a wedding that's really, really intense. And then after that, it's kind of like, hey, we got our thing done, and got it done in a good time, and we're out the door, and we enjoy our time with our family at that point. And that's a big thing for us. So we've got a gentleman right now on our staff. His wife is pregnant. She's dilated. He's all excited. And we're like, hey, he's like, I don't know if I can work this weekend. We're like, hey, take the weekend off. Don't worry about it. We want you to be with her, the family, do your thing, and come on back and show us some pictures when you're done. So that's kind of where we're at this point. That's kind of the maturity level that I'm at this point. I want to say after 14 to 16 years of this, I find that family is probably the most important thing to have. Because they're the only ones that got your back. And they're going to support you through these dreams and nightmares all at the same time. So, but kind of there.
I've noticed every different angle that we've thrown at you, you've said, we've worked really hard at it. We've worked really hard at it. So what's the easy side of entrepreneurship?
The easy side?
That's a loaded question.
That's a definitely loaded question. The easy side at this point is that, well, actually, the easy, I wouldn't say it's an easy side, I'd say it's a stimulation. Is yesterday, my crew literally put together their own dinner, served it to some really important people in our community, our firefighters. I looked at it and it was definitely something I haven't seen from them to produce since we've started together. I mean, I'm so proud of them at this point that it's one of those things where it's like, geez, it really is starting to work. And I think that's the stimulation point of that is where I find it to be the easy portion of it, to let them do their thing, let their vision be created. Because I guarantee you, if I go to a wedding, I have a lot different flavor I produce than some of the staff that I have. But I also have trust in these guys at this point to pull some of this stuff off. And they have their own vision. And I like that. I want them to expand on some of these things and highlight some beautiful things. And we do a lot of, and if you've talked to Ron about some of the stuff that we do, it's all visually stimulating at that point when we do it. So I think that characteristic is starting to show throughout all the employees, and I think that's really cool as being an entrepreneur, to finally see people moving forward that we didn't have before. So I don't know if that answers it or not. Maybe, I mean, sometimes I can just kick a bucket and walk out the door and not come back for the rest of the day, but that doesn't rarely happen, so.
That was the point. There is no easy
There is
point.
no easy point. There is nothing. I mean, to be an entrepreneur, it takes a special person. It really does. And I'm not that special person maybe 100% of the time, 90% of the time, 80%, you can put numbers on it. I have my days, trust me. I have my days where I'm like, I don't know why I do this. This is bananas. But then there's just days, like yesterday night, I walk in and I'm like, this is exactly why I do this. This is exactly why I do it. The customers were happy. The firefighters were ecstatic about it yesterday. The crew did a great job. It was really relaxing to see them do that and peaceful. So that's a really cool opportunity. So
Why did you choose culinary?
I wasn't really good at drafting at the time. My mother sent me over to, this is when I went to Lumen. We weren't a family of money or power or anything like that. We actually walked into, if you guys know Finley's here in town.
Yeah.
Restaurant.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into Finley's and I was sitting there and they had a help wanted sign. And I had just enrolled, like I was telling you about the Career Center. I just finally got enrolled around that time to get back in. I was 14 at the time. I was just about to turn 15.
So you're what, a freshman at Lumen?
I was just coming out 8th and then coming in, and then I was a freshman. So we were over there, and so we were sitting down having tea, and you had a help wanted sign. And my mom asked the manager there at that time, who was Marilyn Armstrong, who had been there for years and years, when it was Mr. Steak and other things like that. She says, well, what can my son do at this point, because he needs to make money, because he wants a car eventually, he wants this, he wants everything, She goes, we'll hire him out.